Yeah, I mean, I think that, I think you can sit in a class and learn some things, but in reality, it's gonna go out the window the minute
Yeah.
that,
Oh,
some
sure.
guy's sitting next to you and licks your face. So, real life story. So
Another podcast.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
it is what it is.
You are now listening to On the Beat Podcast.
And welcome to the On the Beat podcast, session number 4 with Lou Maroto and myself, John Riddle. Lou, welcome. How you doing?
Good morning. Good morning. I'm doing great. Long week. I've been been thinking about this podcast. I'm excited that we have a special guest. So I've been looking forward to today. Let's get to it. Let's introduce our guest and ask her some questions.
Definitely. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it is my honor and privilege to introduce to you Sarah Burgoon Yoos. Sarah, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
In reading your bio, you're a very busy lady, and in your personal life and in your work related life, and you've made some history at the local police department here in Palm Beach County, and we want to learn more about that and why and the hows of what you did to get where you are. Okay. So before we get started, I try to do a little bit of an icebreaker and talk about some things that I'm personally interested in because of training. So what do you do? How do you start your day?
I wake up early and I go to the beach and I do an hour of beach workouts. So sprinting, running, stairs, and I work out for about an hour. So.
Okay. You do any CrossFit type workouts?
I just had shoulder surgery, so right now I'm not doing weights. So I'm just sticking with weight exercises right now, but I will get back to weights hopefully soon.
Okay. And they got a pretty nice gym at the agency. So it's a good benefit for there, So you work out first thing in the morning. Okay. It's pretty much, I think, what a lot of people that are on the go do. They get it done early in the morning. Kind of fixes your day.
It does. It's a great way to start the day.
Get your mindset going for what you're going to do. Makes you clear your head, be able to plan out things a little bit better. You have kids?
I do. I have 4 children. So right now, with everything going on, school's not in. So it's a little more relaxed, obviously. But I have 2 older boys in high school. I have a son in middle school and a son in elementary school. So my mornings are busy.
To say the least.
Yeah.
A little. And high school starts god awful early. So when school is in, that's the first thing I do. So I will work out after the high schoolers get off, and then in between the middle schoolers. But right now, everything is online, so I have a little more time in the morning. So it's kind of nice. They can sleep in a little bit, and we can have breakfast together before I come into work, which is nice.
Nice. Perfect. 4 boys.
Yes.
Jesus.
And then I have 4 boys, and I'm blessed that even though I never obviously had a daughter, I do have a stepdaughter now. So,
Okay.
And she's great and super athletic, and she's, out of all of them, she's the one that ends up working out with us. So
How old is she?
she's 13.
13.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
What time does your routine start? Like you're at the beach 4:30, I would imagine, 5.
It's funny. I work out with somebody that I work with. So the sun doesn't come up until 6:30. So that's kind of been our time, because
Okay.
if not, we just can't see. So, and the bugs are really bad. So that's kind of dictated our workouts. But before, when the boys were in school, and I would just work up. I have a gym in my garage, so that can start at 5. It just depends on the scheduling, and to get my boys ready for school, I have to be up at 5. So, yeah, my day starts early.
Right.
Cool. So once you're done with your workout, you go home, you take care of your kids. Then
Then I come into work. So right now I'm currently working days, which I'm blessed, and so I'll come in and work, and I'm pretty busy. I do a lot of different things. So
I've always seen you, and you're like the busy bee. You're all over the place, but you're busy. But how long have you been with the agency?
I'm in my 8th year.
Wow, time does fly by.
It really does. Yeah. Yeah. So I've completed 7. So yeah. Yeah. It's been a good journey though. I've been blessed. So I don't really have complaints.
Where did you grow up?
I grew up here in West Palm.
Okay, so you local all your life.
I am. I did move around a little bit. My grandparents lived in Jupiter, and so I was back and forth, parents, grandparents, and so I was kind of all over Palm Beach County, but local.
Okay. And in reading your bio, it seemed you had kind of a different childhood than most. Do you want to elaborate on that a little?
So obviously my parents were substance abusers. My mom unfortunately passed away from a drug overdose when I was 19, and my father did get sober when I was 16, I believe, 16 or 17. So due to that, yeah, we bounced around a lot. I have 3 brothers. My grandparents were kind of like a calm in the storm, so we were able to go back and forth. So we had some stability, which I think is probably why we're not all, off the deep end. But yeah, it was rough. I'll be honest, it was rough. We, I ended up when I was 14, I was homeless, and I ended up for a couple of years kind of on my own, and then I ended up in a group home for a little while, which was off of Broadway. And then I got my own apartment when I was like 17. So.
Okay. So how does that set you with your family now?
Oh, so obviously my mom passed away. So my father did get sober, and he was sober for, I believe, 25 years. And I did get very close with him after he got sober. Unfortunately, he contracted hepatitis C from drug use when I was a child, or something. I mean, I guess we don't 100% know where he got it, but you assume he had a reckless lifestyle. So, and then he developed liver cancer, so he passed away 2 years ago. So, but before that, I was able, thank God, to get really close with him. So, but the rest of my family's great. My grandparents are, my grandmother is amazing, and I have a good family, and my brothers and I think have a closer relationship than most siblings do because of it. I think when you go through that, you build, a really special bond. And my little brothers actually moved in with me when they were teenagers, so it was, it was interesting because I was their sister, not their mom, but we're close. So.
Okay. So how does that set the pace for you for your own family today?
For my children?
Yes. Well,
so it's kind of something that it's a balance that maybe I don't even know if I always keep. I find it very important for my boys to understand what me and my brothers went through, because I think it explains who we are. And I don't my past is not something that I'm ashamed of. I openly talk about it. And I think it's important to talk about it because I think everybody thinks that you have to have this perfect childhood or this perfect upbringing to make it something of yourself. And I mean, that's just not the case. I mean, we're blessed to live in a country that if you choose to succeed, you can succeed. It doesn't, there's no predetermining factors, in my opinion, because I was homeless, I was poor, I was all these things. I didn't get to go to school. I didn't finish high school. I didn't, by all accounts, I shouldn't be successful. So I, I try to instill that in my children. But, also I spoil them a little bit too much.
You give them a little what you maybe didn't have.
And so it's a balance I try to keep. I don't know if I'm always so good at it. So,
Okay.
so, but yeah, they're good. They're good kids. So,
Okay. So growing up in that time and going through what you went through, was there any meetings with law enforcement that had you look at law enforcement in one way or the other?
yes. So growing up, honestly, I was scared of police officers because they were always arresting my parents. So it was growing up, I was legitimately scared of them. My parents were, especially my father was in and out of jail quite a bit. So it wasn't something I was never like, oh, that would be a great career, because that's not how I didn't view them that way. And then, unfortunately, I myself got arrested. So again, I did not have like this great image of police officers. And then one day, my mom, unfortunately, because my mom, like I said, was a substance abuser, she had a little bit of a temper. And so after a fight that her and I had gotten into, a woman police officer showed up. And to this day, I don't remember her name. I don't know if I even ever knew her name. But she gave me her card and said, like, lean down, and I was a teenager and I was crying and being overly dramatic, I'm sure, and was basically like, just, you'll get through this, you're gonna grow up, you're gonna be an adult if you ever need anything. And it was that was like the first time that I realized that police officers were people, and I was like, oh, okay. Like this is good. And just I don't know, it changed like the way I viewed it. And I think I was like 15 or in that range, and then I started thinking that this could be something that maybe I would want to do. And yeah, it kind of changed a lot for me at that point.
Nice.
So that was like your first positive encounter with someone from law enforcement. Outstanding.
Okay. So you had the encounter. It was a positive encounter with that lady. So did this put you on the path? I mean, was it something that you had this enlightenment that, hey, I want to be a police officer now? Or was it time progression?
Still time progression. Truthfully, it made me want to join the military. So that was it. So I had always been, I never realized that law enforcement or military was something, I know this sounds crazy, but I was raised off and on by my grandparents they're old school. So women weren't necessarily encouraged to do that kind of stuff. Like, at least in my home, like, my grandparents were great, and I'm blessed that they raised me the way that they did. But my brothers would do the yard work, and I would clean the house, and I would cook dinner, and
Right.
that's how I was raised when I was with them. So there wasn't talk of that. It was, be a school teacher or be a nurse or be a this or be a that, and not in a bad way, in any way, shape, or form. It's just that's the time that they were from. So, um, but I loved playing football with my brothers, and I liked fighting them and their friends, and I was always like, oh, God, I don't want to be a teacher. Like I want to be this or I want to be that, and I was always like the tomboy riding the dirt bikes and climbing trees. And so when I saw her, I was like, if she can be a cop, then I could probably do it. And then it kind of grew from there, and then I really wanted military, and family issues kind of got in the way, and my mom passed, and brothers, and then so I was like, well, law enforcement's still there, and it was always something I wanted, so I did it.
Excellent. So how old were you when you got into law enforcement?
30. I was older, so I waited till my youngest started school.
Okay, so you had a plan.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Before my boys were, it was important to me to be home with them.
Mm-hmm.
So I was a trainer, like a personal trainer. So I just did stuff like that to make money, but primarily stayed home with them until they went to school.
Okay. All right.
Did you go to an academy here in Palm Beach?
Mm-hmm. I did. I went to Palm Beach State. Yeah.
So going into the police academy, what did your family have? What was their feelings of this?
So they did not want me to be a police officer at all. And it was years that I had been implanting the idea. Mm-hmm. And my dad was very, very against it. And
wonder how come?
And he was like, my girl, can't you just not? And I was like, ugh. So I appeased everybody for a while, and I actually went to nursing school, and I did all the prereqs and did all that stuff to be a nurse. And then you have to do this class where you volunteer. It's the first actual nursing class versus all the prereqs for nursing, and you have to volunteer and go into and kind of
hands-on type.
And I went in, and there was somebody sick, and I was like, oh no, this is horrible. I don't want this. And so
you got into police work.
I left. It's really funny. I left, and I was sitting in one of my classes, and my professor walked over to me, and he was this older gentleman, and he was so great, and he just leaned forward, and he's like, Sarah, it's okay, just go be a cop, that's what you want. And I was like, oh, okay. And I signed up the next semester. So yeah, that was it. Okay. I was done.
What year is this now that you're in the academy or about to enter?
Oh my God.
Approximately
9 years ago.
Okay, so
9 or 10.
2010.
I think I was 30. I think I just turned 30. So I'm 38. No, I had to be younger than that. 29. So yeah, 10 years, maybe 9 or 10 years. It was, my academy experience was actually great. It's my brother. I have an older brother, and he had just gotten out of the Coast Guard, and he was kind of unsure. He went and became a boat captain, got his captain's license, and but truthfully, my brother's always going to be a government guy, and so I kept saying I really want to be a cop. I really want to be a cop, and my family was so against it. And then my brother said, "Hey, why don't I go with her?" And then my dad's like, "Okay." I was like, great. So he went to the academy with me, and it was.
So your brother went to the police academy also?
My brother.
Okay.
Yeah, it was really funny. Yeah, it was really funny. They were constantly putting us up against each other, and when I went in, I was super fit, and he was in good shape, but I was way more fit than him. So, but then by the end of it, he could outrun me, and if you know me, that's a big deal. and it was
Competitive.
it killed me. It killed me. So he got a better time on the runs, and yeah, now I can kill him though running, so it's
Okay.
fine.
I'm sure when he hears this, he'll call you.
Yeah, I know. He'll be like, really?
So in the academy, you go through the academy. Were you already hired by an agency?
I was not. When I went into the academy, I wasn't hired. I knew where I wanted to work, but no, it wasn't. It was no. I think there was maybe one person in my whole class that got hired during the academy. Nobody was really hired or sponsored through the academy, so I self-sponsored.
Okay.
So
Wow. Okay.
Once you got certified, you took your test, right? You got your certification. How many agencies did you apply to, or what did you put all your eggs in one basket?
well,
Like I did.
so I knew where I wanted to go, and so I did not apply everywhere. I applied one place, and then another larger agency tried to get me to go to them. So they were going to speed up my process, but I had already, during the academy, I had started the process with where I'm at now. And so I was already done with the process. And then this larger, this other agency was like, no, we'll promise we'll speed you up and get you right through. And I was like, nah. So I'll stick with where I'm at. So I'm happy I did. And
Good.
yeah, no, I did a ride along with just because the instructors were like, you never know what could happen. Like you could fail the psych. Nobody knows. Like the hiring process is crazy. At least
Right.
apply somewhere else or do ride-alongs. So I did a ride-along in a North agency, and it was like for 5 hours. We went to one call, and I was like, okay, no, I could never do this, and that was it. That like sealed the deal for me.
Did you do a ride along with the agency that we both work for now?
I did, but I actually did it before. So funny story is I did have like a slight connection. I knew somebody at the agency.
Which always helps.
It does help. It does help. And when I told him, like, hey, I'm going to start the academy. He's like, okay, we want you. So I'm going to have you do a ride along. And I said, oh, okay, that's fine. So I hadn't even started the academy. And I showed up at the agency, and so two plainclothes guys come down to the lobby to get me, and they're like, all right, come on. And I was like, all right. And so they were in an unmarked car, and it turns out they were in like an ITAC type, like
Specialized unit.
So they drove me around, and it was the most fun I've ever had. And they didn't say anything, they didn't ask me any questions. Like, it was just fun and great. And then at the end, they were like, who do you know? Because we don't actually do ride-alongs.
Right.
So, no, it was great. And then the official ride-alongs were, busy, and
Good.
I loved it. So,
Cool. So that set you into your career path. So after the academy, you get assigned to a shift. Now you were working at that time, 4 on, 4 off,
yes,
and you either day or nights.
I was nice.
Right. Okay. So what was your first night on the road by yourself after you're cut loose out of the field training program? What was the first night on the road by yourself like?
It's funny. I don't remember. I know I should, but the only real thing I remember was, it was exciting because I had worked, truthfully, I had worked so hard to get to where I was,
Sure.
to be a police officer, that, and the academy was hard. And then just because of juggling kids and going, and then FTO was hard because your shift is changing. And again, I'm still juggling children. And, so it was kind of like this, like almost like a tremendous sense of relief that first time, my first shift, but then also being like, oh my God, like I'm a cop. Actually, like I'm legitimate. Like I could arrest somebody. So it was a very like eye-opening experience. But the funniest thing was, um, right, like my first shift, right out of the gate, we had just left briefing, and I'm in my car and I'm already super nervous because you're by yourself. And all of a sudden, my lieutenant at the time, I'll never forget it. I'm, just like, okay, let me just get to my beat. Let me just get to my beat. And I'm driving and I hear on the radio, Sarah, pull that car over. I was like, oh, son of a gun. So I was like, oh, okay. And he was right. My lieutenant was right behind me. And so, of course, I'm like messing up everything. Like I'm trying to do the spotlight, blind myself. Like it was the worst traffic stop you could have ever done. But just because I was so flustered and
A little nervous.
I was so nervous. And then I'm so glad it happened though, because it calmed me down and because everything that could have gone wrong, that first traffic stop totally went wrong and right in front of my lieutenant. So I was like, oh, okay, this is great. And then he just kind of laughed and said, now the rest of your night will be easy. And I was like, oh, thanks.
Trial by fire.
Yeah.
Welcome to the club.
Kind of. And it was great. And I've been blessed. I've had some great zone partners and, I've had the ability to have fun and try different things. And I really am blessed. It's been a great journey for me.
That's great. It's a good path. All right. So you're out on the road. After road patrol, where did you go from there?
Well, while I was on road patrol, I started doing undercover work for the prostitution unit. Mm-hmm. So I would, dress up like a prostitute and do all the undercover work. And so I was doing that for probably about a year. And they knew that they were going to need a spot in that was going to be opening in a prostitution unit. So they started asking me to put in. I didn't feel that I had been on the road long enough because I think that is an issue. I think that in today's policing is so young and agencies are so young that people don't spend enough time on the road, and that's where you learn to be a cop. And so even though I was told to put in that first, I had only been on the road, I believe, like 3 years. So I didn't. And then I waited, and then they, again, come on, put in. We need you for the prostitution unit. So that following year I did. So I was slotted to go to prostitution unit. And a captain at the time, who's no longer with our agency, said, I know that we said you were going to prostitution, but we're going to put you in the juvenile unit to monitor juveniles. And I was like, that is a horrible idea because I deal with kids enough. So it was not a good fit. I did it for maybe 6 months, and then they moved me over to the prostitution unit. So I was there for a couple of years.
Okay, excellent.
Sounds good. Let me ask you a question. Being with your background and your excuse me, the issues that you had to overcome, what made you not want to stay maybe in the juvenile unit and maybe take it from there?
So it's kind of funny. As much as I I would have liked to stayed in the unit, because I do know that kids need direction. I know that they need help, and I do understand that. And with my background and what I went through as a teenager, that I think that's why they thought I would be a good fit for it. And I understand the reasoning for why they put me there. But I have a different view on, so I don't, because I went through it and I chose not to, be running around committing crimes and all these other things. Although I have empathy for kids and what they're going through, I don't allow them to make excuses, because in my opinion, There isn't. I've been through it. I know what they're going through. I think it's a good and a bad.
Yeah, like a double-edged sword kind of
Because
deal.
I go into situations differently. I think I really do have respect for any and everybody because of it. Because I know, you can be addicted to drugs and not be a bad person, and I know that you can be homeless, and that doesn't mean that it's not because you're, not trying. And circumstances, sometimes you don't have control of them. So I do give, I think, a little more respect and um, to that. But I also just, when it came to the juvenile unit, it was almost too close to home.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I get you.
Um, yeah.
It was no, not. Yeah, I was just curious. Yeah, I get you.
But did they interview you for this position, or they just assume?
They assumed.
Okay.
They did. They
All right, yeah.
assumed.
Okay.
And I don't.
And that's a good. That's a good point too. You figured they would have interviewed and they can see some of your background and do we really want to
And
have
give
that
them a
person
chance to.
relive
Right.
something.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, that's a good
Yeah,
point,
it
Joe.
was not. It was definitely not a good fit. And I was lucky that the administration kind of changed pretty quickly, even within the unit. So once I went to the at the time lieutenant and just said, "Listen, this isn't right for me. And, I certainly can go back to road patrol if that's necessary, but I really wanted prostitution and he's like, nope, that's perfect, and they just slid me right over. So it worked out.
Okay.
It worked out.
All right. So, what other units have you been in?
So, because of my connection with the girls that work on the street, um, we've had a spike in overdoses. So, well, let me back up. So, prostitution was under community policing. Probably should never have been under that. It's more of like a vice crime, but it's also a community complaint. So I think I mean, it's just logistics, I guess. But once our administration changed, they kind of downsized and restructured a lot of our units, which was great. It turned out to be a great thing. But I ended up in like a specialized like tact unit, like where it's more of like a more aggressive with handling like violent crime and like street level narcotics and such like that.
Okay.
So I was, our whole unit went to that, and my primary focus was still prostitution, but we also figured out through that I was good at buying drugs. So I started doing undercover work to buy drugs. So I was doing that for a little while, and then we had this huge spike in overdoses from heroin / fentanyl. And once that happened, they put together a task force. They pulled 4 detectives from different areas, and because of my relationship with the females that work the streets, they unfortunately are a large number of the overdose cases that we do have. So they moved me. I was one of the 4 selected for the overdose task force unit, which was great. I loved it. It was very eye-opening, because it affects so many people, and there's nobody that's exempt from the opioid.
It could happen.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
And I think that was because my scope was so narrow, and the fact that I primarily worked Broadway, like the northern area of our city, I was just so generalized to that area, that once I went into this task force, I mean, I was responding all over the place. And you see that there's no demographic. It's the rich, the poor, black, white, purple, green. Everybody is affected by this, and everything's heartbreaking. So,
And when you started, when the agency had you start going out and working, buying drugs, did they send you to school for that, or was that an OJT?
I did go to an undercover school. So I did have training in it, and I did back when I was doing prostitution. So, but it is kind of more on the job training, because it is more on the job. It's more on the job training, but I was fortunate enough that I had gone to some training.
Some type of a formal.
Yeah, so I had, but I mean, it had been some time. But yeah. And then just like the small amount of training that we do, and at the actual job, the primary concern is always your safety. And so we do train for that. So that, I always felt safe. So, yeah.
I'm sure you took like the basic classes that most of us have taken, like narcotics investigation or organized crime, stuff like that. So, but like you said, John said, most of the stuff you really learn doing it. You get some guidance from the senior guys, senior officers that are there, and you kind of run with it.
Yeah, I mean, I think that I think you can sit in a class and learn some things, but in reality, it's gonna go out the window the minute that some guy's sitting next to you and licks your face. So, real life story. So
Another podcast.
Yeah, we'll leave it at that.
It is what it is. So you kind of have to roll with it, and I don't think that that's going to be in a textbook. So, you just have to know how to handle people and keep your cool, and if you have confidence in the people that you work with, you're okay. And that's really the importance of it. So,
and that's true, because like when I was in my day, when I was on the CAT team, we went to organized crime, narcotics identification. They sent a handful of us away to DEA school.
Yes.
For 2 weeks. And then when you come back and you go in the field, it's a different world, so it's theory and what really goes on.
Practical. And
you just have to know how to roll with it, because it's very dynamic, and it can change in a minute, right? And like you said, your team is going to be the ones that are going to be there to pull you out when need be.
Well, absolutely.
Yeah, and if they know you, they know when you're not okay or when to intervene. They know how far to let it go, and that's why it's important to have a good relationship with the people that you work with, and kind of. So I think that I think that that's why training with your team and working with it, within your team is always a good thing, because they know you, so they can pick up on the changes in your voice.
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. That's a big thing.
It is, because you might have a code word, but
apples and oranges.
You forget it, or something's going on, or it's not necessarily like let's burn the op and rush in, but hey, maybe call my phone and distract me. There's things that you can do where you're not necessarily burning yourself, but yet you need something. And so I'm fortunate enough that one of my coworkers is great at that, and I change her name in my phone so that when it calls, it shows that it's like certain people, and so when she calls, it's like she knows, like, and she's great at it. So
good. I remember when I was back on the road, right in that corridor, and I would speak to some of those girls that would be on the streets, the prostitutes, the heroin addicts, and I remember you coming up there. They knew you by name.
Yeah.
And they would ask, so I was like, "Ah, thank God." And I would go, "Hey, Sarah, come meet me at 40th and whatever,
Yeah.
But
So fortunately,
you had a great rapport with those females.
yeah, because it's sad. So everybody sees them. You see them walking the street, and people forget that they're people, and that they're somebody, and that they're somebody's daughter, and somebody's, mom or sister, and they're so judged by what they do, um, and that's sad because I've taken like classes, and I'm certainly not going to quote statistics because I'll mess it up, but the majority of the women, from my personal experience that I speak to, that are in that kind of a lifestyle have experienced trauma. So they've either been sexually abused as a child, a teenager, physically abused. They were introduced to the lifestyle at young ages. So they're victims. We just missed it. And now, unfortunately, they're on the street and we overlook them. And so it's tragic. And so I'm fortunate enough that I have some great partnerships with some local outreach community or organizations. And so, yeah, they like me. They understand that my job conflicts with theirs sometimes, and I do have to arrest them.
Right.
But I do it with respect, and they know that it's the end goal is to try to get them off the street. And I've been fortunate that, I know it doesn't sound like a lot, but I've been able to assist 5 girls in getting off the street, which again doesn't sound like a ton, but
It's a win.
it's a win.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so there's some good people out there. It's just
Now, let me ask you this, because this is and it's coming up a lot lately in the news and other areas, media. How much of these girls or guys that are out there that you run into are locals versus people who are being trafficked?
so in our city, where I work, I primarily deal with street level prostitution, and the majority of them are local. However, it is being fed by the rehabs that are down here. So a lot of the new girls that I deal with are from out of state that come here for rehab, which is horrific because they're sent here by their parents, and then they flunk out or opt to leave the rehab, and then they're on the street, and then it's not long before they're working the area. That we do have a human trafficking section in our department. I don't work that section, but primarily from what I see, it's more like drug addiction and locals or out of state but drug related prostitution.
Okay, so it's like mom and dad in Kansas have a child that has an addiction problem, and they say, "Oh, let's send them down to."
Right, because they actually advertise so heavily up north for the rehabs down here, and people have no idea where they're sending their children.
right to the hornet's nest.
It's awful. And there was a policy, and I thank God was lucky enough to be able to assist in getting it changed. But there was a policy that when people go to, and the policy is still in place, but we don't enforce it anymore. When you check into a rehab facility, you hand over your phone and your wallet. And you sign a piece of paper saying that if you choose to leave, they are not going to return your belongings for 2 days. And that's a policy where police officers, we enforce law. So, but for some reason, we weren't enforcing it. That we would show up and say, "Oh, this is a civil matter." No, it's not. Give them back their license. So once we identified that it was highly feeding into the prostitution like rise in our area, because these girls would flunk out. They're from Connecticut or Pennsylvania or Indiana. They have no phone, no ID. I couldn't even get them on airplanes to get them back to where they were from. Within hours, they were, somebody would scoop them right up. And I'll be your boyfriend, and next thing you know, they're part of our, our problem, and that's so we were able to get that changed because that was not good.
Yeah. Yeah. Because, do you feel that there is a trafficking issue in this area?
I think all large cities deal with it. Um, I think that trafficking, when we talk about human trafficking, we only assume that there's the sex trafficking. I think that that's what everybody's mind goes to.
Mm-hmm.
But in our area, we have a huge labor trafficking issue. And it's not something that's as identified or talked about. And that's sad because our children are just as vulnerable to that. And it's mostly migrant children. And yeah, I mean, it's an issue. It's an issue everywhere. And especially in the Spanish population, because they're so fearful of the police, that they don't reach out for help. So it's not, I would tend to say that it's not something that's hugely centralized here in our city. However, nationwide, absolutely, it's a problem.
Okay. Yeah, because I remember years ago, and just like you said, it was more of a migrant working type.
Yes, and
issue.
within that migrant community, just by cultural differences, yes, there is like a sexual component that is a problem because they culturally, their age of consent is different than ours. So within that labor trafficking, human trafficking issue, there is this underlying sexual component of it that is a huge problem, and still so out of control and not even documented because it's happening in the middle of the state and on farms and such that we don't even have access to. So.
Now, do you have access to any of the feds?
Our human trafficking section does. I believe
We have a task force.
Mm-hmm.
We're part of the task force.
Yeah. So, and I know that they have had stuff here in our city. I wasn't part of that. Like I said, I've always been on the street level side of the prostitution. So, but I do know we are attached to the feds.
And I know from the time that I did in OCS, most of it you see in the massage parlors, right? You'll end up getting a search warrant for it, and then you'll see a specific room where these ladies, these girls would have personal photos, so you can tell, these rooms are assigned for the sex acts, and then this is where I sleep. And the owners of the business would actually take the passports. So now these girls cannot leave. So.
And that's still an issue. I mean, that's.
And then I've seen it like in our city where you'll do a warrant on a decent sized house in the North End, and say the living room is broken up into 4 or 5 sections. So there is some trafficking going on there, unfortunately. But so now you've worked in, you've had a chance to work in some good units, got your feet wet, you've learned a lot. What was your next unit or part of the department that you want to be a part of, and why?
Well, so back up a couple of years. Well, actually, you know what? No. Back up all the way back to the academy. It's funny because so I'm a little bit competitive.
I think more than a little.
I'm a little competitive, and I knew that there had never been a woman on my department SWAT team. And I knew that this was a department I wanted to work for, and I knew that I was going to be the first woman on the SWAT team, and I wasn't even hired yet. So I was in DTs in the academy, and one of our SWAT, who at the time was a sergeant, he's now a lieutenant on our SWAT team, was one of my DT instructors. And we were doing DTs, and I don't even know how it came up, but I said, "Oh, no, I'm going to be the first female SWAT member." Didn't know he was on the SWAT team. And he was like, "Oh, really?" I said, "Yep, I am." And he's like, "Are you even hired with us?" And I was like, "No, I'm not, but I'm going to be." And he just laughed, and never, like, they called me SWAT, I think, the rest of the academy. And so then when I got hired, that was announced like in briefing day one of FTO. And I was all of probably 105 pounds soaking wet at the time, and like, scared out of my mind because I'm in a room full of people I don't know. And they were like, "She's going to be on the SWAT team." And it never, I was hounded for years. And then the minute I was able to try out, the year I was qualified, I was, I guess, qualified because you have to be off probation for I believe that was 2 years. So as soon as I was eligible to try out, I had trained so freaking hard, and I was ready. And the tryouts were in March, and December 28th, I will never freaking forget it. Somebody said, like, "Hey, you know that you have to bench press 20% more than your weight, or to some extent, during the tryouts." And I was like, "Crap, no, I didn't know that." So I was like, "All right, let me go down there and see how much I can bench." So after my workout, I went downstairs, and my husband was with me, and we put weight on the Smith machine, and it came down, and my shoulder popped out of place, and I was like, "Oh, yeah, that's not good. That's not good." And so he pulled it up, and I was in the doctor the next day, and they sent me for an MRI the very next day, and I had completely torn the labrum off of the bone. So
Wow.
I was devastated because I was going to be the first year, and tryouts that year were March 2nd, or I'm sorry, yes, March 2nd, and I was in surgery March 6th. So I wasn't able to try out, and I was so upset. And I was like, "Well, you know what? I'll try out next year." And so they were like, "Well, you can't do push-ups, and you can't do anything for, because I had to repin my labrum and cut my collarbone and do all kinds of crazy stuff." And they were like, "Nothing, nothing for 6 months." And I was like, "Yeah, okay." So I went right back to training, and then I tried out the next year with, there was 11 of us who tried out. There were 6 firefighters, 4 police officers, and after the 2 days, there was only 4 of us left, and then I was selected and made the team. So.
All right. So you're in a career field that is, it's not even half and half. It's more still male dominated.
Very male
right?
dominated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Male dominated, male opinionated, right? Now you worked your way through all the way up to now I'm going to try out for the SWAT team. It's a pretty ballsy move. Yeah. I don't know how many women are on SWAT teams within the United States now. I kind of lost. I'm not sure.
It's still a low number.
But what made you want to go there?
Like I said, I'm very competitive, but I'm very competitive with myself. So I have this thing where I always think that everything I went through in my life, as a child, everything that I dealt with, it can't be all for naught. Like there has to be a reason, and that's how I live my life. I really do. And if I truly live it, like I'm not going to allow all those things to have happened and me not to have grown or learned or developed from them. And so I try to be the best at everything I do, and I have an insane work ethic, and I'm proud of that. Like I am proud of the fact that I know that if I do something, I'm going to do it 100%. It's who I am. I think that I've I hope that that's what people think of me. And so when I was yes, being a police officer in itself is good, but I didn't want to just be a police officer. I wanted to be the best. So SWAT is, in my opinion, the highest level of policing you can do. You are trained by amazing trainers, and you get the experience of people who've been on the team for so long and have had so much experience and so much training. And it's funny, like my very first practice, I remember leaving going, wow, like actually felt bad that not all officers were able to have the training in which I had in one training, because it makes you such a better police officer and so much safer. And I felt like, wow, like I was like humbled that I had the opportunity to even be there. Plus I was really tired because it's brutal, and but yeah, I wanted to do the best and be the best and train hard, and yeah.
I'm gonna show you a picture. Okay, a couple pictures. I'm gonna show them to John first. All right, and then I want you to take me back to that day.
Okay.
Jose, can I see the phone real quick? All right, and John's been here. We've all been here. It took me a little bit this morning to find them, but I found them. So this is.
I don't even think I've seen these.
Okay, day at the beach. And then I was your cadre running with you that day.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was invited out.
I think you were there.
Yeah, my schedule was pretty booked, but I was there first morning in the parking garage.
So
And
so in a few seconds here, take us back to when you're standing there at, what time was it, 6 a.m.?
It's like 4 a.m.
Yeah. Well, by the time we show up,
Yeah.
So, yep. So, you remember that, right?
Oh my God.
Okay. And then I just show you these real quick. I wish I could show the camera, but I can't.
Oh.
Right. So, with that said, take me back to that day,
So this is about to get a little bit graphic, so I apologize in advance.
And that's what I like about you, because
I'm here.
You're like a big, you're like a big sister.
you can say anything you want.
You can say anything you want.
Right.
And
I do want to pre-warn. So because Mother Nature has a huge sense of humor, like huge, I was fortunate enough to start my period literally the night before the first day of SWAT tryouts. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. Like, this is what's happening. I not only do I have to go through SWAT tryouts, but now I have to try and also be on my period during this. And I was like, I don't even know how that's going to work. Like, there are like logistics that take place that need addressed. How am I going to do it? So I showed up that first day, and because I do run, I love to run. I have like a waistband where I can put my phone and keys or whatever. So I was like, all right. So I just like stuffed it full of tampons, and then like we had to get there at 4 o'clock in the morning, And I was like cramping and like in such a bad mood and so nervous, so nervous. And I just remember like looking around at all these guys, and I was like, I could kill every one of you because not a single one of you have to do this on your period. I was so mad. And so I was like, okay, I can do this. So you start and they come up and they take your blood pressure and make sure that, you know, I discuss medical issues before you guys show up and terrorize us.
Train.
Yeah. So I was like, hi, excuse me. And they were like, yes. And I was like, so I'm kind of on my period. So, and they were like, what? I was like, I'm on my period. So what do I do here? They laughed and I was like, nope, seriously, I am. This is an issue. So they were like, yeah, no, it's fine. Just whenever you have to use the bathroom, go. I was like, okay, that's fine. Well, I'm lined up. The whole thing starts. And then comes the water. And there's jugs of water and you're getting yelled at. And they kept dumping water on me. Well, I had things in my pack that kept like blowing up. And like,
flotation device.
yes, and I was like, this is crazy. So like it was just kind of funny because in my mind I was able to like disconnect for a moment and kind of laugh at the whole situation while you're being screamed at and tortured.
Trained.
Trained, yeah. So it was really interesting 2 days, but it was great. I mean, it like, I know it's not a popular opinion, but I loved literally every second of it. I did. I mean,
yeah, you're crazy.
I hated it. I'll be honest. But I loved every single second of the trial.
So what, if you can, take us through your first day?
Yeah. So oddly enough, like the thing I was most nervous about was the flashbangs. And I know that's so crazy, but I have faith in my physical ability. So I wasn't really like worried about the running or the sit-ups or the push-ups or, any of that. I was worried about things like I just didn't know. I'm a slight control freak, I'll be honest. And I had started training on the beach. I had done my investigating work and figured out kind of what was not necessarily gonna happen, but what had happened in the past. So I was like pushing cars up and down the street, and which worked out because we had to push a van. So I knew that there was like dragging, you had to drag tires full of people. So I started dragging tires. Like I did train, specifically because I know that I'm at a disadvantage. I'm not, 190 pound male. I'm 130 pound female. And I knew that was kind of going to play a factor. And my biggest thing is, and always will be, I do not want to take a spot from somebody who is more capable than I am. So if I cannot perform at the level of the next guy, then I should not be on the team. If I can't carry you out and I can't run and I can't keep up with you, then I should not be on the team. That is a huge deal for me, and it was very important that they didn't change anything, lighten anything.
Which we didn't.
No.
For the record.
No, I lost 3 toenails. So I know. But so I wanted to make sure that I was able to do what was needed. And so that first day was hard. The garage was hard. The flashbangs, it hit, like one hit my leg and like bounced off, and I was like, oh my God, it's gonna blow off my leg. It didn't. So I was like, okay, we're good. And but I don't know, like I felt so, I know this is again gonna sound crazy, but I just felt so blessed to be there because and whenever I was like, oh, this is horrible, I was like, no, like I get to be here. I get to try out. Like I'm in a job that I love, and I've worked so hard to even have the ability to try out, and and here I am, like, I'm gonna enjoy it. And so there's a point where we run. We had just done like 5 bajillion stairs at Trump Tower, and we run over the bridge to the beach, and the sun was coming up, and it was beautiful.
It was beautiful.
I know. And I was like, as crazy as it is, like, I used it to kind of take a minute and reflect on the fact that, like, you know, I am a very blessed person that I was there and I was able to do this. And unfortunately, during that time, my father was in hospice and declining very, very quickly. So it was even up to the day, I wasn't even sure I was going to be able to try out because he had slipped into like a coma. So they were like kind of counting the minutes and hours. So I was like, well, I can't be at squad tryout. And then my dad passed away. So throughout the tryouts, I was so fortunate enough that people would like, he's still good, you know, like give me the thumbs up, like he's still okay. And it gave me relief. And so at least on that aspect. So I just felt blessed and tried to enjoy the misery, the training, I guess.
What was the best part of the misery?
I loved the beach. I know I did. I loved the beach. I mean, I love the beach in general. I'm a beach person. So for me, although it was, you know, awful and doing sit-ups, holding a log, you know, while waves crash on you is not, you know, my idea of like a fun beach day. But I had trained my husband and I had started training on the beach. He would make me carry him up the stairs. So he would get on my back and we would run, and then I would have to carry him up all the flights of stairs all along the beach. So he was great. I mean, through the tryout, he was amazing. And as much as like I like to think I could have done it on my own, there's no way. I mean, I think I came home between day 1 and 2 and I had like this master plan. Like I was going to get an IV, I was going to eat a pizza, take an ice bath. And I did none of the above. My husband got me like a smoky from CR Chicks, like to carb load. And I smelled it and I was like, I was going to throw up. So I didn't even eat. So for 2 days I didn't eat food. And he like went and got me ice and he's like, all right, get in the bathtub. And he like turned the water on cold and didn't even put the ice in. And I was like, no, I'm done. I'm getting out. And he's like, no, you have to get in. I was like, I'm not doing it. So I got out and went to bed, and he gave me ibuprofen and did my laundry and, you know, made sure that I got out of bed that next day. And he was great. I mean, you know, it was good. It was nice to have him there.
How did that morning feel?
The next morning? Well, you know, so my husband had tried out for SWAT a long time ago. And he passed the tryouts but wasn't selected for the team. So he did kind of he knew what to expect where I had no idea. So he did tell me, he said, you're between day 1 and 2, the hardest part is getting up. And that when your feet hit the ground, that between 1 and 2, you're going to want to go back to bed.
Absolutely.
That is hard. Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, that is the hardest part. He said, but once you get up, once you get moving, you'll be okay. You just have to get up. So I was like, all right. So I kind of knew what to expect. And I think my body was like in shock. I don't even know. Because the next morning I wasn't even that bad. We cut my blisters open because my feet were full of blisters. So we sliced all my blisters and wrapped them. I took ibuprofen and I felt good. I think I was like maybe on like still an adrenaline high. I don't know. Or crazy. I'm not really sure. I mean, I was sore. Like, don't get me wrong. But I was like, all right, no, I'm good. Like, this is all right. So I went, and the second day, everyone had said like, oh, the second day's not that bad. Just get through. It's only in the morning. They lied. That was awful. It was horrible. So second day was hard, and you know, you're sore, and I was so worried because a lot of people fail that like last run, the timed run. And all I kept thinking is, if I go through all of this and then I can't run a mile and a half and whatever, I'm going to be so mad. And so that's all I thought about that whole second day. And yeah.
What do you think about that stress run? Because I I asked you because I was there and I was watching you, and you really did a great job at getting on the team. And I remember seeing you training in the gym and doing other stuff to prep. But how was that stress run?
Awful. That was awful. That was horrible. And I will be honest.
Because it's a team concept there, right?
Mm-hmm. And it's frustrating. And you try not to get frustrated. And so there are some parts of it that are frustrating because when you give 100%, you expect everyone to give 100%.
Absolutely.
And when people don't, it's very frustrating. And then when you feel that you're being punished because people aren't, it's even more frustrating. So, and it's hard because you never want to get down on anybody because you don't know their physical ability or their mental mindset. But at the same time, you're like, okay, pull it together, put on your big boy pants, let's go. And so, yeah, you get frustrated. And I think that the team, the leaders who are leading the team, the cadres, they do a good job because it's not about just physically beating you down. And that's really like the unique part about it is that everyone thinks it's just so physical, but it's not. I mean, yes, you have to be in great shape, but it's all it really is all mental. I mean, because there's an individual that has tried out multiple times, and I trained with him leading up to the tryouts, and he's in better shape than I am, hands down. I mean, I've had 4 children, and yes, I'm in good shape. Like, I'm not denying that, but he's,
a lot of it's mental.
Is because he breaks down, and it's sad, and so that does happen. And so, yeah, you start to see like where you start to get frustrated with people, and you're like, okay, just stay in your own game, worry about making sure you don't fall behind. And
I think I remember hearing the mom come out of you.
I may have yelled at somebody.
Yeah, come on, guys, get it together. Let's, but
tendency to do that. So the stress run was awful, though. It really was. And yeah, I wouldn't want to do that part again. No.
So now we complete the 2 days trial, right? You put on a waiting list, right? Because you passed everything. When did you get the word that you're getting put on the team?
So it was kind of funny. So the tryouts ended, and then I actually took the following day off, thank God, because what I had expected to feel like in between day 1 and day 2 is how I felt.
Hit you on the 3rd day.
Yes. I could barely get out of bed, and my hip flexors were so sore, I think from the excessive amount of flutter kicks that we did. But my 2 of my boys had football games, and so I'm sure I looked absolutely ridiculous. My feet were just covered in blisters. 3 of my toenails had completely fallen off. Like completely, they were just gone. They were bleeding. My feet were bleeding. I had, I was like scraped up from army crawls up a hill, which I didn't know that I'm horrible at army crawls until the tryout. It's not my.
You knew some stuff, but you didn't know everything.
The army crawls were not. Those were awful. So I was like just covered in like scratches and bruises, and I could barely walk, and my sons had football games, and so I'm like waddling up the very next morning at 7 a.m. to a football field, like dragging a tent ready to die. And one of the cadres that is on our team, his son also played on the same team, and he's like, hey, how are you feeling? And I was like, I want to die. That's that. And I laid on the blanket for like 6 hours, like during the whole like football festivities. And I don't think I moved. It was awful. I felt horrible. And then that following weekend, just that very next weekend, I had to run a 5K that for the police foundation. And so I couldn't back out of it because I like helped like sponsor it. Like I like help promote it. So like I couldn't just say like, no, I'm not going to do it. I could still barely walk. Like it was horrible.
I would definitely find an excuse.
My knees were swollen. I think that was the only year my husband beat me in the race, in the run. I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of your husband, what is his? How does he feel about you being on the team?
I think he's always been extremely supportive. And like I said, there's no way I don't think I could have done it without him. He leading up to it, he changed everything from the way that I work out to the way that I eat. I mean, I've always been a runner, so but I was really thin, and I had to put on weight. I mean, so he changed. He really helped me a lot. So he's always been supportive. I think there's aspects of it he doesn't love. Our team is great. They've been extremely supportive. They treat me like one of the guys. I think at first I think they were so nervous about like the locker room situation that I got called in by 2 lieutenants to like make sure I was comfortable, and then a captain, and I was like, guys, I'm fine. Like I'm okay. Like I get, it's not like we're all walking around nude. Like it's not a big deal. I've seen men in boxers. Like, so I think once everyone realized that it wasn't going to be this huge, change, and now everything had to change, and I think now they're very comfortable and they know that I can joke and be just as inappropriate, if not more, than the next person. So that's kind of relaxed. Where I do see where I've had issues is doing training with other agencies because they don't know me. And so our team is great. And so, but, you deal with the man ego when they don't know you and they don't know your abilities. And I was in SWAT school, and there was this guy, and he was super nice, but every time we would unload off the APC in SWAT school, he would stop and like offer me his hand to like help me out of the APC. And I know that doesn't seem like a big deal, but I'm in freaking SWAT school. Like, why are you helping me out of an APC? Like, I'm fine. I got it. And every time I was carrying the boomer, he would like take the boomer from me. And I was like, what are you doing?
What SWAT school did you go to?
The PBSO. But there was people from everywhere. So yeah, I mean, and it was completely that's just how not even, I'm a woman, and he was just being gentleman, but I was like,
I can do this.
I can carry a boomer. Like, it's fine. I got it. So it's just, little things like that. But
yeah.
So you've been on the team now, what?
Over 2 years. Yeah.
And now you're actually making entries?
Yeah. So
I think we talked about it, but I couldn't remember.
Well, so I was put on the stick, and I knew it was a small apartment, my first entry. And I so bad wanted to go in because you work so hard. Like, like I had been in the back with the handgun or less lethal, but I had never been with the M4 in the actual stick. And so I had finally got put into the stick, and it was just recently. And so the door opened, and we realized it was a small apartment. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to get to go in because if you're so far back in the stick and it's a small apartment, they don't need everybody to go in. And I realized it, and it was going to be my first time to go in. And I was like, no, I'm going in. And so
She's cutting the line.
Leader, it's so funny because if you ask him, he yelled at me in the parking lot, and then we laughed about it. But it was totally his to go in, and I cut him off and went in front of him, and I was like, I know I'm gonna get in so much trouble, but I'll just deal with it later. And so I got to clear the apartment, and I was, you know, it was great.
You'll never forget it.
No, and then he yelled at me in the parking lot, and I was like, but it was small, and I really wanted to go in, and he's like, well, I guess I'd rather that than you not want to go in. So I was like, so, but yeah, it was really funny.
Okay. So you're on 2 years now?
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So, what was the first operation like?
Like the first warrant?
Very first one you've ever done on the team.
Oh my gosh.
So actually, like the first time you got to dress out.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I was nervous, and we were on the door. So when you first start the team, you just drive. So it's a good way to introduce you because you're nervous. And so you get to see what goes on, but you're only driving. But so you kind of see everything, but you're not hugely involved. And then your next step is that you're on the breaching team. So obviously I'm not huge. And so I was nervous. I had never breached a door besides the little bit in SWAT school, training on a metal door or like in service on a metal door. And it's not anything close to the real thing. And, so I was nervous, and you're new. So they're still, are we using the word training for hazing? Yelling at, screaming at, so they're still training you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hurry up, and yes, there's a sense of urgency, get the door open. But there's also an aspect of I'm brand new, and they want you to feel pressure. That's part of it. Mm-hmm. And so, so I was like super nervous, and I was carrying the boomer, and I was like on the side of the APC, because you jump on, you ride up on the side of the APV, and it was so heavy, and I'm so not, that it almost like pulled me off the thing. So like it was all these like crazy dynamics that I was totally not expecting, and I was super nervous, but it was so great. And we got the door open like really quick, and I was like, oh, that's awesome, like yes. Doors aren't hard at all, and like turns out it was just an easy door, and so like, but I don't care, like I'll take it. Like we got it open really fast, and I was like, see, yeah, we can do this. And it's it's been good. I don't have complaints.
Are you still a breacher?
No, well, I mean, we kind of all do all different things.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
I'm not on the door as much. I think that they're good about using people where their strengths are. And I think that, we have some very, large men who, could probably just run through the door. And there's new guys on the team. So they're breaching. So, okay. Yeah.
So where are you on the stick now?
Wherever. It's kind of changes. It depends on what we're doing, what kind of like how many, because we're kind of in a spot right now, we're low on our numbers. Mm-hmm. So everyone kind of does everything, which I actually think is really great, because that way you stay fresh, you don't forget things. Mm-hmm. So I mean I could drive one day, or be on
just slowly moving up into the stick.
Yeah.
Which is good. We've all been there, and you get your feet wet, like you said, by starting to drive, and you feel the adrenaline behind you, and the things that we do in the truck prior to the search warrant, but it's in my opinion, and I think in the whole team's opinion, you really did a great job on the tryouts, and I'm not saying it because I know you and I know Steve, but yeah, no, because I was there and I saw what you did, and I think the whole team respects that, because you really pulled your own weight, and it was nice to see that, We didn't change anything, like you said earlier. Nothing was changed. We didn't deviate from any other trial. Um, so it's and it's nice having. I don't know how to say it. It's
A
nice.
clean locker room? No, you
no,
can say it.
no, not-
you can say it.
No, that's not what I'm gonna say.
Yeah, no, a
No.
locker room that doesn't smell now.
No, I'm glad you kind of changed my topic here, but now you come into the locker and you smell Febreze.
Yeah,
I've heard that.
It's clean now.
I've heard
It
that.
is. Yeah.
Anytime you walk in the locker room, she's doing something out of the garbage, or she's wiping the. Oh, this is so dusty. This is a mess. And we're like, no, it's been like that. We like it like that. You're messing it all up. But no, you do a great job, and we definitely appreciate it. And you're one of us. You're part of the team. So,
Thank you.
Yeah, I didn't. I knew of you. I heard a lot about you because I'm not sure if I was on my way out retiring when you were coming on. I retired in 14, I think.
I got hired in 2014.
Okay, so I was probably on my way out when you were coming in, but I heard a lot of good things about you. And then when they said you were going to be trying out, and I got invited to the tryouts, and again, my schedule was kind of tight, so I was there for the morning to see you there. And I was calling you and a couple other guys to see where you were at the time, because it was a big thing, and,
absolutely.
and, I mean, whether this occupation likes that or not, I don't care. It's still a huge thing. It's a huge thing for the team. It's a huge thing for that business, and it's a huge thing for you.
It's really funny because I had like this whole like women's cheering section, and I did. It was so great, and the women that I work with are amazing and super supportive, and I would they were getting updates all day long.
Yeah, the whole day.
Yeah, they were so great, and they were in between days, waiting for me to get off the bus, and I will never forget it. I got off the van, and at the time, our chief was a female, and I got off the van on the second day, and I had passed and I had finished, and she came running, full running across our garage area to me, and was hugged me, and she's like, "Oh my God, we did it, we made it, we're on the team." And I was like, "I'm not technically on the team yet," but it really did represent so much, and to have a woman that passed, and it meant, I think it meant a lot to a lot of people, and that was great, and it definitely kept me going, and to know I had such
There was a lot of people cheering for you.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole team was actually cheering for you, believe it or not.
it was good.
Absolutely. When I tried out in 1989, 1988 or 89, and we had probably 16 guys trying out at that time, and 4 of us, I believe, were selected. But at that time, in that era, there were no women on the team, and there were a few that were in the agency that worked with the kids or detectives, and that was the place where they were at that time, so the times have changed, definitely, and with you making that, your drive from what you spoke about today, from your childhood all the way through to sitting in this chair today, it's phenomenal. It really is phenomenal, and
it's a great story.
Yeah.
I mean, if that's the word, like you said.
No, it is. It's phenomenal. Congratulations. It's you're a true showing to anybody, not just women, but kids that are coming up today that are having a hard time. They can't figure out what they want to do with their life, and they're kind of behind. This is a great story that they should hear, and be able to tag in to what your life, and to be able to emulate that.
Well, thank you.
Because they'll get far. So congratulations.
Thank you. Thank
You
you.
bet.
Excuse me. We're glad we had the opportunity to have you as a guest, because you're actually our first guest, right?
Yep.
First guest.
Yes.
Well, thank you for
First
having me.
guest.
I was honored when you called me. I really was.
And I know you were happy. Yes, I know you were happy, and so thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
So this is the part of the podcast where we would thank our sponsors. But since we don't have any, I want to thank you for coming on. Okay, and it was a pleasure, and hopefully we can have you back.
Yeah, absolutely.
We can in your next endeavor, which I wouldn't think that it's that far away.
Hopefully not.
So maybe when you become chief.
That's my end goal.
I'm sure.
I'm not
I'm
kidding.
sure it is. I'm sure it is. I'm sitting here thinking about it earlier, and I'm thinking, I can see it.
Mm-hmm.
I
That's
can
my
see it,
goal.
you
So, yeah, you will.
So,
That'll
definitely.
happen.
So maybe you can come on Two Old Fuckers podcast
Yeah,
by
then
that time. And,
maybe I could be your guest. Because I'll be retired.
and we could discuss that endeavor also.
Sounds great.
And a big thank you to our behind the scenes guy.
Behind the scene guy.
Right. Our guy Jose. Thank you very much
Thanks, Jose.
for doing everything he does back there.
He keeps everything running for us.
So we're
All
good.
right, all right, guy.
Thank
Good seeing you again, man. Thank you. And we'll cut it at that.
Yep.